As a software engineer or web developer, your technical skills are very important. However, there are some soft skills that are just as, if not more important, that deal with how you interact with your coworkers and your ability to do your job. So, I've gathered 5 interesting ones from my personal experiences, and I would love to discuss them. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. And if this is your first time seeing me, hi, I'm Bree and I'm really happy to have you here. On this channel, I talk about my experiences as a software engineer, as well as some tips and tricks that might help you on your tech journey. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 skills that are super important to have as a web developer or software engineer that don't exactly revolve around the technology that you're using. Soft skills are very important and don't always relate to what you're doing on your job, but how you're doing it and how you're interacting with the people around you. So I've gathered 5 skills that I think are pretty important from my few years of experience, and I'd love to discuss them today. So let's get into it. So the first one is problem solving and being able to solve problems with technology. So as programmers, our main goal really is to solve problems. We are solving problems with the use of technology, but we are taking problem statements from our clients, companies, sometimes ourselves, and creating solutions for them with technology. Many times, once you start working, you'll be given a problem with no solution. And this is where sort of your problem solving skills come in. Most times when I'm working, I am given a destination A and a destination Z. A is where my company and client are starting, and Z is where they eventually want to be. They don't exactly give me a list of technologies that I have to use or methods that they want me to use to implement them. It's my job to take their problem and their troubles that they're having, take that in and come up with a path from A to Z that will solve their problem. So I want to note that a lot of times it is assumed that software engineers use the most up-to-date and the most flashy and fancy technology to solve problems, and sometimes people think that using the newer technology is the only way to solve a problem. As long as you are understanding what your problem is, using any language or any technology that is going to best solve your problem and suit your needs will be perfect. You don't have to use the newest, flashiest, fanciest framework to solve problems. That's sort of why I like to code so much. There are so many different ways to achieve the same goal, and I might come up with something different than you. And as long as we're connecting the dots to get from point A to point Z, then we're all good. So my second skill is having the ability to research. And that might sound a little bit strange because you might think it's just as simple as typing your problem or your error code into Google. But knowing how to take your problem, turn it into a statement that you can use to search either Google, Stack Overflow, any forums or anything like that, and find your answer or even learn from things that you're searching is essential. So you might find, and you likely will find, that sometimes you're not going to see the exact answer to your problem because nobody has the exact same code base that you do. So being able to take what you find from your research, even if it's similar, and tailoring it to your code is going to be essential. It can be very alluring to just stop what you're doing when you get stuck immediately and ask somebody for help. Learning how to research your problems and then go to somebody and ask them for help, basically stating the things that you've tried, the things that you've looked for, is going to be very, very helpful for you. And that sort of leads me into my third. Knowing how to ask questions is really important as well. There comes a time when we all have to go to Stack Overflow and ask the internet for help. It can be easy to assume that the internet is a bunch of mind readers and will know exactly what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve, but that's not exactly how it works. Some errors can be very intuitive and it can be easy to figure out exactly what's going on just by looking at them, but for a majority of the errors that I see on a daily basis, it doesn't work that way. So knowing how to pose your questions on forums like Stack Overflow will not only help other people provide you with an accurate answer for your question, but it'll also help anybody who's going to be looking at your question in the future. So if I'm posting on Stack Overflow, I tend to post about 5 things. I would say that I post my end goal or my complete goal, basically what I'm trying to achieve. I post the problem that I'm having, whether it's an error or something isn't working or running the way it's supposed to. The issues I'm sort of having, things that I've tried to do, and the trial and error that I've done to try to solve my problem, and any code snippets or a live demo if I can. Now, sometimes this can be a little bit tricky since I'm working on a project that has a proprietary code base. So of course I can't post my code base online because it is private and it belongs to the company that I'm working for. But if I can recreate something sort of like it and post it on like CodePen or something like that, I will. So it sounds like a lot, I know, but I promise you that it's really helpful for people who are going to be looking at your question, either to answer it or people who are also having a relatively similar question as you. So my 4th skill is being able to turn criticism and constructive feedback into building blocks to make yourself better. So nobody's perfect. We're always learning. And peer review is one of the ways that I learn on my job every single day. I think about things differently than you might think about things. And even if it's just discussing why I did something one way versus doing it another and hearing somebody else's opinions, that's a learning experience. Being able to take feedback and using it to grow or at least expand your mind to think in other ways is essential. Now, I will say, not all advice or criticism is good advice. And if there's anything that I learned from college, it's the one thing you can learn from a bad manager or a bad process or a bad just general way of doing things is how not to do it. And my last one might sound a little bit general, but it is communication. Communication is super important for every job and in life in general. But you'll find that as a developer, engineer, programmer, whatever your title might be, you have a lot of knowledge in something that a lot of people find very taboo. Even when I think about myself, when I talk about some programming concepts to my husband, my sister, my mom, sometimes it sort of goes over their head and I sort of lose them after a certain point. Being a developer, you have a group of people with a varying range of technological knowledge. And being able to convey your problems, concerns, what your code does, why it does it, to a variety of people in that group is going to be very important. There's a very thin line between talking over somebody's head and watering something down too far to the point where they might get offended because they assume that you don't know that they can understand it. So I think that knowing how to balance these different groups and speak to these different groups and convey your information technologically is pretty important. So I would say those are 5 skills that I've learned that every developer should have, just in my personal experience. So I hope that you guys were able to find this useful, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe for more videos every Tuesday and Thursday. And I can't wait to see you all in my next video.